taking time for your health. The African American Wellness Watch. Trusted information for us, by us. Dr. Mike Lenore and other experts from around the country and around the world have the latest on how you and your family can get healthy and stay well. It's time for the African American Wellness Watch. Welcome to the Wellness Watch. I'm your moderator, George Strait. They say that you are what you eat. Well, why not eat the best then? But what is the best food to eat, and why is it so hard to do that? It's a struggle, but that's okay. And you don't have to take my word for it, because today we have an expert, Dr. Deborah Gould. She happens to be a physician, but she's also just like you and me, a person who is fighting the good fight to be healthy and to stay fit and to eat the right things every day. Dr. Gould, welcome. And so let me start at the beginning, I guess. When you were growing up, what was your diet like?
Hi, George. Thank you so much for inviting me. Growing up, my diet was like everyone else's. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. We used to go to the farm in the summers, and we ate everything from vegetables, pork, beef, the things that everyone ate. Um, I remember when TV dinners became popular. We started eating TV dinners, and then Hamburger Helper came in to help out. So growing up, I had what everybody else was eating. Vegetarian diets and plant-based diets really weren't the fad back then. Fast food, hamburgers, that was the fad, and I ate what everyone else in America was eating.
So when did you decide that your eating habits had to change? Was there one singular moment, one trigger, or is it just sort of something that evolved as you got older?
Well, when I was in college, my senior year, we had an intercession where we had to do a project. And having spent summers on a farm, picking our food, growing our food, they would slaughter the animals. Um, I thought, well, I can do farm to table and see how meat production was. And so I went to Cincinnati and looked at the meat packing houses, and really looked at how the meat came from mass production meat came from farm to table. And it was shocking. It was nothing like what I knew growing up on a farm, eating what we grew. It was mass production was entirely different. I was shocked and very dismayed at what I saw. And at that point, I decided I wasn't going to eat meat, and that was January of 1976, and I have not had it since.
So was that a social thing? Was that a diet thing? Was it you didn't like the way animals were being treated? How did that evolve?
The lack of sanitation,
Mm-hmm.
the lack of caring of how the animals are treated for sure. But then also, when you look at what it costs to grow a pound of the amount of plant-based protein it takes to grow a pound of meat-based protein
Mm-hmm.
also didn't make sense. But really, what did it for me was spending that time in the meat packing houses. I don't recommend, if you like meat, that you ever want to do that.
So what's been your journey since that time from eating, whether it's hamburgers or whatever, to what you eat now, and how would you define your diet now?
Well, initially, what was really hard for me to give up, because we were a rib making family, was bacon and ribs. I'm sorry, those were really hard for me to give up, but
Yeah.
I did. And the transition, I was in college, so that was really kind of hard. It was in the 70s. There wasn't a whole lot of vegetarian options. I had, we were eating beans and rice, and wasn't a whole lot of other options out there, as far as really how to create. You had to learn how to create a whole protein with rice and beans and sesame seeds, and learning how to um, add use different color foods in order to get all the nutrients you needed. And it was a journey. It took me a while to learn how to do that. When I graduated from college, I spent the summer with my sister, who was at that point strict vegetarian. She was lacto ovo. They did eat eggs and cheese, but they didn't eat any fish or animal protein. And so that was really an interesting change for me, and it taught me how to eat that way. Back in that day,
Mm.
the Seventh Day Adventists foods were basically where people went. in order to be able to get the plant-based protein, because they were packaged, they were already produced, and he didn't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure it out.
So has it been difficult to sort of stay on that wagon, if you will, as you transition from what you're eating with a kid to as a kid through college and into adulthood?
No, not really.
Mhm.
As I said, I learned. I always cooked, so
Mhm.
learning how to make different recipes, using the different uh, nuts, seeds, rice, beans, and the plant-based protein that was produced through the uh, the Seventh Day Adventist foods that we talked about. I started creating a way in which to really maintain my diet and stay healthy. And I've really done that since then. Now I do eat seafood. Lobster was hard for me to give up. I had to, like, stick to it.
Right. So a lot of these plant-based diets get a name. You're not a vegetarian. You're not a vegan.
I'm
I
a
mean,
pescatarian, meaning I eat seafood and I eat vegetables. But most of
it-
my diet, I mean, I don't eat seafood every day.
Mhm.
I mean, I have to say maybe of the 7 days of a week, 3 or 4 days I'll have seafood. The rest of the days will be vegetarian diet. But I do eat eggs and I do eat cheese, so I'm not strictly vegan. I'm
and
lacto-ovo.
you're a physician. You're a scientist. Do you think that you are in much better shape physically because of this kind of diet?
Um, yeah, I was always an athlete, so um, what nutrition was always important. In order to be able to perform what little sports you did. So I have to say, yeah, I think that I have great health. I'm um, not obese. I'm I've aged nicely, I think. So yeah, I think what you are what you eat, and I think it does make a difference. As I was speaking to you
Mhm.
before, part of the important thing of feeding this body is making sure that you have all of the phytonutrients that you need. And so, as a pediatrician, what I used to tell my families, and I used to make it fun for the kids, is to try to eat every color every day. Because if you do that, you're getting a full range of all of the antioxidants and the vitamins and the nutrients and the minerals that your body really needs. So being able to concentrate on making sure that you have something blue, something red,
Mhm.
something orange, something white, something yellow, something green every day, then you're getting a full range of what your body actually requires.
So, are there any practical hurdles that you face, like finding markets that sell what you want, or restaurants that serve what you want, and also price? Is the kind of diet that you eat, is it more expensive than diets that include an awful lot of fast food and those kinds of things?
Well, fast food is cheap, but it's also highly processed. So yes, any diet that doesn't include fast food is going to be more expensive than a diet that does. But, it's much better than what it was in the 70s when I first stopped eating meat. Um, there's Every grocery store has plant-based options for those who are plant-based. What is more expensive, however, is eating organic, and I choose to do that. So organic foods are much more expensive than non-organic foods. Don't eat a lot of frozen produce, and I don't eat a lot of frozen foods in general, and I don't eat a lot of canned foods. So I like to eat fresh. I find that if I shop the way Europeans shop, which is um, buying things that you're going to eat for the next day or two. One, you don't have a packed refrigerator. Two, you don't have things rotten in your freezer. Three, you don't waste a lot of food, and it's more. It's easier for you to plan the the meals that you're going to have.
I was going to ask you about tips for our audience to eat better and to stay healthy. I think that kind of planning is probably fundamental
Mhm.
to sort of getting to a place where you really are able to eat healthier, even in places that are so-called food deserts. If you sort of sit down at the beginning of the week and say, look, well, I'm going to do this on Monday and this on Tuesday and this on Wednesday, then you can have at least the time to find the kinds of things that you need, right?
Definitely. And the other thing, if you're a parent and you're trying to plan foods for your children for lunch or for your infants, what I tell parents is, when you buy something that's in a jar that's already pre-mashed up, you're paying for that. You're cooking already. If you have an ice cube tray and you have a blender, you can make vegetables, cook them, steam them, mash them in a blender and spread them in an ice cube tray and freeze them. Each one of those cubes is a serving for an infant. Um, you don't need to rely on juice that's just straight sugar. You can mash up um, fruits and as well. So I try to steer them away from looking at those cute boxes and all the marketing um, to things that they're already doing in their home and just figuring out another way of packaging it for use for their children.
You were talking about when you and I were young, and our parents would give us canned vegetables. I mean, it's no wonder that I didn't like asparagus until I got older and had some actually fresh asparagus. Dr. Gould, I get a sense that you feel a certain kind of personal joy in the fact that you're able to eat healthier, and despite the ups and downs that we all have in trying to stay healthy.
I do. If you eat good, you feel good, and
Yeah.
I have to say that that's true. Not just true for me, but true for anyone. I encourage people to read. There's a lot of information now that they can get through the library if you don't have access to the internet, or through the internet on ways in which you can have healthy diets. And I suggest that people look at that and read it, and don't be discouraged.
Deborah Gould, my good friend, thanks so much for being with us. Thanks for giving hope to an awful lot of us who try to eat healthy. We don't always do it, but it's as I said before, and you said as well, it's a journey, but it's one that is well worth beginning and staying on. Thanks for being with us.
You're welcome. And don't forget, there's farmers markets everywhere. If there's issues or concerns that people have about finance, most farmers markets take EBT, and so you should be able to get fresh food no matter where you live.
With that, we're going to go to a real expert. In a moment, we'll have a chef to share some of the tasty ways to eat and stay healthy. Nikki Shaw is next. Chef Nikki Shaw. Before we get to those tasty little morsels that you had cooking on with some of your Instagram videos, let's get basic about this. What do you tell people who are trying to eat more healthy? What's the advice that you give to them?
Well, okay, so first of all, we have to wrap our mind around that's our goal. That's really important to set the intention, because sometimes people are like, they go into it like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to hear about it. When I go into cooking demonstrations, I have to kind of encourage people to look at the benefits, like look at how much you're about to improve your life and the people in your life. So I think that's a big part that a lot of people don't address. We have to set the intention that this is what we want to do. This is our goal, and we want to be successful and achieve this goal. So after we get past that hump, and that's a big one.
Sure. Attitude is everything, right?
Attitude is everything.
Now, suppose I can't go straight to a plant-based diet. Are there some good intermediate steps that I can take?
Everything we do is a choice. And you don't have to go straight plant-based if you don't want to. But it's also important to understand what exactly are the options and what it means. So just overall, vegetarians on average are 25% less likely to die from heart disease. We know that heart disease is the biggest killer in the world. So just that statistic alone, and I'll repeat it because sometimes it takes you a minute to hear what I'm saying. 25% on average are less likely to die from heart disease, with heart disease being the biggest killer in the United States. So just to understand, a vegetarian diet means that vegetarians may eat cheese, eggs, milk, but they do not eat meat such as chicken, pork, and beef. Instead of meat, they lean on plant-based protein. Now, that's the traditional vegetarian diet. A vegan, however, is a different kind of diet. That means people choose to forgo animal products altogether, including milk, cheese, and honey, and exclusively eat plants as part of a vegan lifestyle. Now, it takes some real discipline to live a vegan lifestyle, but we have other options. We have a pescatarian diet, which refers to a vegetarian diet with the addition of seafood. And plant-based foods such as fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and seafood provide your protein and your omega-3 fatty acids. And finally, and this is where I fall into this section right here, a flexitarian diet. And that just means that some people are more flexible and they try to simply cut down on their meat intake and eat diets that are primarily filled with plants, but with some animal products here and there.
Nikki, we all fall off the wagon. We don't always achieve our goals in a straight line fashion. If we do fall off the wagon, what are some of the intermediate or some of the recipes that we can begin to try to get back to our goal?
I always encourage everybody, give yourself some grace. We're all trying to figure it out in this beautiful world that we're living in.
A lot of people think that these pescatarian and flexitarian diets and plant-based diets are just bland. How do you make them more tasty?
What I've found that I really enjoy adding to my food is lemon juice, lime juice, grapefruits. Citrus really makes food pop. It really brightens it up and gives you a whole extra layer of flavor. And then, you know, we can always count on fresh garlic, green onions, thyme, rosemary, all those fresh herbs. And sometimes people are intimidated by fresh herbs, but that really brightens up the flavor of everything. So I encourage people to really experiment with herbs and seasonings and citrus and even mangoes or tomatoes, just adding things in that you typically wouldn't try.
Sounds terrific. So tell us a little bit about this incredible salmon dish that you're going to cook up for us.
So salmon is one of my most favorite go-to dishes in the world. We're making a delicious recipe with Creole salmon and pineapple skewers. I know you're gonna love it. So before we get started, we're gonna take our 10-inch wooden skewers and we're gonna soak them in water for about 30 minutes. And I'll add some water, and this will prevent our skewers from burning. I'll take my skinless salmon fillet and I'll use the thick portion of the fillet and I'll cut it into 2-inch chunks. Next, I'll lay my salmon in the pan and I'll pour 1 cup of Tony's Creole style seafood marinade on top. I'll cover my pan and let it refrigerate for about 30 minutes. While the salmon is marinating, we'll cut up our fresh pineapple. Now you can cut it up yourself or you can buy pre-cut pineapple in your produce department at your local grocery store, or you can use canned pineapple. Cut each slice of your pineapple into 2-inch chunks. Next, I'll cut up my red bell pepper into 2-inch squares. I want the pieces to be nice and uniform because that makes the end product look nice. Okay, so my salmon has been marinating for 30 minutes in the refrigerator. I've cut my fresh pineapple into 2-inch pieces. And I've also cut my red bell pepper into 2-inch pieces. I like for everything to be around the same size so that it cooks evenly. Now we're ready to assemble our skewers. So we'll start to thread our salmon first. We'll slide that down the 2 skewers. Then we'll grab a nice piece of red bell pepper, slide that down to meet the salmon. Then we'll grab a chunk of pineapple And another piece of bright red bell pepper. Come back again with a nice thick piece of salmon. Another piece of red bell pepper. Another chunk of pineapple. Red bell pepper again. And we'll finish it off with a nice piece of salmon right on top, just like that. Okay, I've covered my pan with foil. Now I'm gonna spray it with nonstick spray. That makes cleanup easy. And I will place my skewers right on my pan. I'll preheat the oven to broil. I'll take my fresh lemon juice and squeeze it all over the top. Next, I'll take about a half teaspoon of Tony's Bold Creole seasoning and sprinkle it right on top. Try adding other vegetables to your skewers like onions, zucchini, or even mushrooms. I'll let that broil for about 10 to 12 minutes until they're done. All right, so I'm gonna plate it. Oh, this looks so good. It's been cooking for about 10 to 12 minutes and it looks amazing. This is a great meal all by itself, or you can serve it on a bed of Tony's Creole butter and herb rice. Either way, you're gonna love it. For this recipe and more, go to cuisinenoirmag.com and tonysacherie.com. Enjoy.
Chef Nikki Shaw, as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company. We're really grateful that you're able to, and honored that you share your expertise with us. You're going to help millions of people just sort of get over the hump of how do I start and how do I continue and how do I reach my goals of eating healthy. Nikki, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you guys for everything you're doing. We appreciate you for making a difference in our community. So thanks for having me. Take care.
Nikki, you're much too kind. Thanks again. And thanks to Deborah Gould for sharing her story. Remember, you can get all of this good information about how to eat a more healthy diet on our website at aawellnessproject.org. That's aawellnessproject.org.